When it comes to dog training and dog behaviour, timing is quite possibly one of the most important things. Sometimes it can even be more important than the technique or method you're actually using. So I'm going to give you an example to explain and to highlight why it is so important. So timing is something that you need to have accurate, whether you are praising something, reinforcing something, punishing something, or interrupting something. So it's all about association. Dogs associate, and this is how they learn. So their primary way of learning is through association. That means they pair one thing with another thing. So, for example, when we're trying to make dogs like something that they don't like, usually we would pair that with food and distance. So the food therefore helps them feel better about the thing that they're seeing that they currently don't like, if it's fear related. So there's a lot of like ifs and buts. But even when it comes to training, if your timing isn't good and your timing is off, your dog won't be learning what you want them to learn. So I'm going to give you two examples right now. So from a training perspective, if you recall your dog and your dog comes to you and you wanted to give them food for coming back to reinforce them coming back, but by the time they've got to you, you haven't got your treats out of your pocket yet and you're going, oh, got those poo bags in the way and I'm just trying to get to it. Oh, where have I put my treats? And you're getting your treat out and then you say, right, sit, and the dog sits and you give them a treat. What do you think the chances are that the dog is even pairing the fact that they came back to you is why they're getting food? So in this situation, if you wanted a sharp recall, what you would do is call your dog back, you have the food ready, and you place it in between your feet as they're coming back into you. So they've got a visual that you're bending forward, your feet are open, you're placing treats in between your feet, so that immediately as they reach your body, they're getting food. So one, that's placement is important, because it's around where your feet are, which is where you want them to be. Two, their head is down, so they're not scanning for anything else and they're not jumping up when they come back to you. And three, you're not reinforcing a sit. If you're calling them back to you and ask them to sit, it's actually the sit that gets stronger, not necessarily the recall. Some dogs can pair it that their recall also gets strong, but it's not that common. Mostly they just get better at sit and their recall still remains pretty shoddy. Now let's look at a behaviour example. So I'll give you a personal example for this one. I had a Springer Spaniel called Pudgy. Now I had him for 12 years. I had him from a young pup. He was quite a raving psycho, and he actually is the reason why I know so much about behaviour today, why I became a behaviourist, why I want to help dogs who struggle really badly with their emotions and their reactivity and bite histories. It's because I've owned many of them, starting with him. I worked with various people to help him. And one of the techniques I was given is to follow the classical conditioning techniques of Pavlov, which is you pair seeing something that they don't like with food at a distance, as I said earlier. So I was advised to give him squeezy cheesy, from a tube, whenever he sees a dog. So he had many triggers, but dogs were quite a big one. So I worked with that first. And it was squeezy cheesy for seeing a dog. And I was told to stand around the gates of parks. So I would see lots of dogs, but there wasn't really the risk of them running at me off lead. And that worked. That was a fine technique to do. The problem was he very, very quickly wouldn't take the squeezy cheese. Now, he was the world's greediest dog, and I cannot highlight that enough. I have never met a greedier dog. He was called Pudgy for a reason. He was a fat boy right from the start, loved his food. And so when he refused squeezy cheesy and started not wanting to take it on a walk and was actively trying to move away from it, I realised there's obviously a very big problem here, because that's not him and that's not normal. So when I contacted the veterinary behaviourist who was helping me, I realised that it was actually a timing issue. And what I had been doing is I had been squeezing the cheese when I saw the dog, not when he did. So he had learned that cheese predicts a dog, not that dog predicts cheese. And that put him off cheese completely. And he loved cheese, loved squeezy cheese. So what it started to do is to poison food, because my timing was wrong. And I can tell you, even after I worked with him for a long, long time, and I got him better with dogs to a point where I could have multiple dogs in my house. I then started doing fostering and working with other dogs. He was a stooge dog for some dogs. I tried years down the line, I think about 6 years later, I offered him squeezy cheesy in the house. So completely out of context. We weren't on a walk. I just offered him some. I can't remember why I had it, but I did, and I just offered it to him, and he ran and hid behind the sofa. So even though he was now good with dogs, fine with them, no concerns about dogs anymore, he was still terrified of the squeezy cheesy because it brought back all of those emotions. And that is because I had taught him with my poor timing that cheese predicts a dog and dogs are terrifying. So make sure that your timing is good, and that if you are trying to train your dog, that you're rewarding the thing you want them to be learning, and that if you are trying to change their behavior through having a positive association, that it is at the time that they have seen what it is that you're trying to pair with a positive association. Otherwise, they're not pairing it at all, and they're learning something that you don't think they're learning. So write in the comments for me anything where you think your timing could have been off, anywhere where you think you may have poisoned food in your dog's mind because it's now a negative, where you've tried to use it in a positive way and your dog's now refusing it. I'd be really interested to hear, because this is a very, very common one. Thanks.